ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां व्यासशंकरमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं तमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। So I welcome to you all to the another text for this course. It is called Jiva Yatra. This particular text has been written by one of the Swamijis in the Sringeri ashram. So he was a sannyasi and he wrote this text called Jiva Yatra. His name is called Jnanananda. So Jnanananda Bharati is the one who wrote this text, and it is a very beautiful text, a small text, but it conveys the meaning as to what is required for us to achieve the ultimate goal. So as the word Jiva Yatra, so there are two words are there. So the word Jiva means the human or the human being. It's called Jiva. And Yatra denotes a journey. So it describes the journey of a human being or a Jiva. Who is a Jiva? A Jiva is a person who is born in this world according to his prarabdha karma. So when we say a person is born in this world, then the question naturally may come to one's mind is, why did the Bhagavan create this world? And why was the Jiva created? This is a fundamental question anybody will ask. He said, I understand I am born in this world, but why all these things are there? Why did the Bhagavan create this world at all? Was there any vested interest in the Bhagavan? Did he had a lot of time? He was getting bored. Like when we get bored, we take up activities. So we cannot keep quiet. So was the reason that Bhagavan was getting bored and he created this world just for his own sake? The answer is no, because the Bhagavan doesn't have any interest in any creation, or he doesn't have any vested interest in enjoying anything, because he is Ishvara, is karma rahita. He is not subject to any karmas. He doesn't have anything to do, really speaking. So there is really no creator here. So when you talk about creation, when you say why did somebody create? So there is really called no somebody. Then the other question we ask is, the only answer which you can really see from the Shastra's point of view is that this world or this universe was created by the Bhagavan, or it came into existence mainly for the exhaustion of the punyam and papam by the jivas. So only for, there should be a mechanism, there has to be a method, there should be a setup. So without a setup, a person cannot offload or take up anything, correct? So there should be some setup. So the mechanism of the setting up is this universe. So one may ask a question. So every jiva here requires a physical body, and the physical body, it comes with a package. It comes with the body, the mind, sense, and the entire system of the pancha prana, manaha, indriyam, everything comes. It's a complete package there. So any child is born, it is born with all those ingredients. It is not. You cannot say that a child is born with no heart. It is not possible. It is possible that a person may be born with defective heart, or a defective limb, or defective intellect. But all of them are born with having something in place in every correct proportion. It may be that there will be deformity in some elements, etc., depending upon the prarabdha karma. So every jiva requires a mechanism for exhaustion of punyam and papam. And the punyam is actually spent by all pleasurable experiences. So whenever you have pleasure, whenever you have anandam, when you enjoy something, that means there is punyam there, that is why you're enjoying this. So you have done some good deeds. They say punyam means it is actually good deeds. So good deeds will give you good results. And good results will lead you to enjoying this world, called pleasurable experience. And if there are any bad deeds which you do, any the durkarma can do that, then it will give you pain. Right? And they are exhausted through painful experiences. So both of them are exhausted. So when I say exhausted, it means that all the punyam which you have been having from the day you are born, you are accumulating, you are spending in some form or the other. So it is actually getting removed. Then all the papa karma which have been allocated is also you're going through by enduring, by going to the painful experience. As I told you, every human being who is born is got prarabdha karma. So you have to go back to the previous lesson, first class, as to what is prarabdha karma, etc. You should know. So prarabdha karma is the main reason for a person's human birth. And because his karma is there, results are there, there has to be a setup, there has to be a structure for the person to go out and just take everything out. Otherwise, it will just be sitting there, and who will do this? Bhagavan doesn't have anything to do with this. He's not going to come and enjoy your prarabdha karma, your results, etc. because he's not interested. He's also beyond all these things. So definitely the answer would be that the Bhagavan created this universe or this physical world, this jiva, for the exhaustion of punyam and papa. Now, the next question people may ask, how did the jiva get punyam and papa? Okay, what is the first question? Why did Bhagavan create the world? And the answer we said was, the Bhagavan did not create the world just for fun. He created the world because there are jivas are there, and they need a mechanism to spend their punyam and papam experiences so that they are free, at least. So that is why he created. So the next question, logically, one may ask, if you tell a story to children, so if you are a grandfather or a grandmother, and they ask, what did Rama do? Rama went to forest. Why did he go to forest? Then he say he went to forest because Kaikeyi actually asked him, or they said he has to do this. Then why did Kaikeyi ask this? So you go, keep on going, correct? So the same way here also, how did the jiva get punyam and papam? The second question logically may ask. So the answer we give is, jiva got punyam and papam from the previous creation. So there was a creation before, and in the creation before, the jiva was existing in some form or the other. And he or she would have accumulated punyam and papam in the janma. And thereby this creation, the person has taken birth and he is exhausting the punya and papa. So the question doesn't stop there. The person says, how did the previous creation come to existence? How did the previous creation, this creation we're talking about, understand? What about the previous creation? So the answer what we will say is because the previous creation. Correct? So the answer is given as there was a previous creation before, because of which there is another creation, then another creation because this creation. So now we are going into a. So when this question is asked by the person, like it's like a recurring question. The mindset of the person asking the question is, there was a time when the Bhagavan created the universe. So he accepts the fact that there could have been previous creation. There was a time when the Bhagavan created this universe and he put some jivas in there, some test samples, of species. He put some jivas in there. He gave them some punyam and papam. It is like, say, I'm going to put you there, and I'm going to allot you some punyam and papam. And then you go and enjoy. So those jivas so there was a jiva before, and the jivas actually were enjoying the punya and papam. Then it was not enough for them to do, then again another creation. What is the answer? Because the mindset of the person asking the question is that there was a time when the jiva was there and the Bhagavan also was there. The answer is no, because if you keep on going back, say the jiva was there, and then you'll say another creation was there. Another creation was there. So there's no end to this kind of answer. So what it says here is the jiva itself is anadi. The jiva doesn't have any beginning. The Bhagavan doesn't have any beginning. So who is jiva? Jiva is also anadi. And Bhagavan is also anadi. So jiva and Bhagavan both are anadi. So how can jiva be different from the Bhagavan? Hope you're getting the question right. You're getting. I'm not even on topic yet. I'm just setting it up so that you know what it is. So jiva is anadi, and Bhagavan also is anadi. That means as and when the Bhagavan was there, jiva was also there. I mean, jiva Swarupam Aikyam was already there. The jiva was never separate from the Bhagavan, because it is only due to the ajnanam or this because the understanding is not clear. So the first lesson in the Vedic philosophy we teach them is to understand that jiva is anadi. Okay, understand. So we are all anadi, we do not have any birth. This is something you should understand. So if you say, no, I don't accept it, I have a birth, means you will be bound. Shastram says that you do not have a birth. See, it is like somebody saying that, so let's say that you are lost your key, right, somewhere, and you are complaining that you lost your key. Somebody who's actually next to you, he can see the key there. He says, I found your key. But because of your own, understanding that I lost my key, and it's like an echo going in your mind. So you're not able to listen to the other person saying that he has found a key. You know what I'm saying? You're not able to understand that the other person saying that, yes, I got a key, because you're busy in your own thoughts and your own understanding that, oh my God, where is my key? And you're running around here and there. The person has said only once, I got your key. Later on, when the mind, when you start sitting down, then what did you ask? What did you say? You said you have got a key. Yes, I told you in the beginning itself I have a key, but you are not listening. So what it means, that your attention was not there, your ignorance was there all the time. And because your ignorance was there, the knowledge which was being revealed by the Shastra was not getting you inside. So the key was always there. It was never there. I mean, it never got lost. But you think it was lost because you were searching in the wrong place, number one. Second thing is, you thought it was lost and you are going to search for that key. So what is that key? The key is happiness. So when you get your key, you're happy. Oh my God, yes, I got my key now. I'm very happy about it. So when the key is not there, you are unhappy. Right? That's why it says here that the Ishvara is Bhagavan, is without the beginning. Same way, Jiva also is there without the beginning. So the only answer Vedanta gives here is that the Bhagavan doesn't have any interest in Jiva suffering or enjoying, etc. Because the Bhagavan is karma rahitaha, correct? So you are also karma rahita. So Jiva also is karma rahitaha. But somehow what do we say? We are karma sahitaha, because we feel connected with karma. We cannot think of a life without doing karma. Can we do that? Supposing if we tell, or if we say, from tomorrow onwards there will be no activity being done. No coffee in the morning, no paper in the morning, no TV in the morning, no going to office in the morning, and only Bhagavan contemplation, sitting there whole day. Can you do that? It is not possible, because the structure of the body is, Prakriti is like that. It will make you do activities because the gunas are there. Sattvic gunas are there, tamasic are there, correct? So we are studying the Bhagavad Gita, the Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, correct? So the gunas actually make you do that. So that's why the Jiva requires a creation to exhaust the karma and a mechanism to process the karma also, correct? So when you do the karma, you are acquiring fresh karma. Is it correct? So when you do an activity, what happens? You enjoy pleasure. So when you have pleasure, what do? You enjoy, and then you do more activities. Oh, see, this activity requires, is giving enjoyment. Let me continue doing more of this. So what do? You continue doing more. So you continue like this for the entire lifetime. You accumulate more and more experiences. In the process of acquiring that, sometimes you also get bad experiences. So this life continues. It's called yatra. Right? So that's why every jiva requires a setup. What is setup? The setup is, the structure, the order, the worldly order, and the shariram. What is the shariram? A medium or upadhi. So through the body only, the jiva can interact with the setup. So only through the body only, the jiva can interact with the world. So without the physical body, the world, you cannot interact with the world at all, correct? And because of that, these two things are required: set up the world and the physical body is required. Both of them are required for you to expend this punyam and papa. Right? And this life continues like this. So in our deep sleep state, there is a suspension of karma. So if you go to sleep at night, there is no karma, because temporarily it is paused. Because the physical body is not active anymore. The setup itself is not, it's not available for experience, because the medium through which the setup is enjoyed itself is not available for recognition. Hope you're getting right. The physical body, mind sense complex, which is there, is not available for recognition, because of which the interaction is not possible in the physical world. Thereby there is no karma being done. Therefore there are no experiences. So you neither get punyam, you neither get papam. Is it correct? Because in deep sleep state, what do you get? You don't get anything. You get only anandam. Is it right? Okay. If somebody tells me that in deep sleep state also I suffer, but can somebody tell? Can anybody say that, and I'm sleeping really well, I'm really suffering a lot, I'm enjoying a lot. Because the deep sleep state is one thing which everybody wants. We are all waiting for the deep sleep state. Is it correct? After long day's work, what do you want? Today I think I want to sleep well. Today I want to get rest. Today I want to enjoy my sleep. If somebody tells you that tomorrow you should not sleep, or you have to go to temple and do chanting Rudram for whole night, if a person is committed to that, he will do. But if you're not used to that and you really want to sleep, what do? I am not willing to go there at all. I may get punyam, etc., but I do not want. I'm happy to get whatever punyam I got during daytime and papam, but I want my sleep, because that's the time when you do not do any karma. So the body contacts the setup, contacts the world, exhausts the punyam and papam, and again acquires a fresh one. Because the amount of karmas which you do, the amount of punyam you earn, the amount of papam you earn is not enough for one janma. So what do? You continue again. So it's called Jiva Yatra. So Yatra means what? It's a journey. So, and the body is called the transport, or the bus, or the train. You can call train, you can call bus, or a car, whatever, correct? And the yatra is supposed to be the destination or journey itself. So what we are going through is a journey. It is not the end goal at the moment, end destination. And the fuel, the fuel required for that to travel. See, everything requires fuel, right? Energy required. The energy required, or the energy which is supplementing this travel, is your prarabdha karma or your life. So the life span, time which is there, is called the energy or the mechanism by which you travel. Supposing you have, say, 5 years of age. So if somebody tells you that you can live only for 5 years. So what happens? Your travel is restricted, correct? You cannot reach the destination what you want. So let us say that from here, you're taking a ticket to go to, say, I'm in India, forget about Australia. Supposing I'm in India, and I'm in say Bombay or Mumbai. I want to take a ticket to New Delhi. Correct. So I'm using a mechanism called a train. It's a transport. And what is my destination? New Delhi, correct? So I'm using a mechanism called a train, and then I'm communicating, I'm traveling to New Delhi. Now, do you think that I will go to New Delhi non-stop, or I will stop at some point of time? We all know that when you travel to India, depending on the train you take, you can get down at different stops. So let us say, if my memory is correct, if I was traveling to New Delhi, I'll probably first stop, I'll go to Surat. I will get down at Surat. And the train stops for 20 minutes. So what do you do there? You do not sit in the train, right? You want to wander around. So what do? You go down, get down the train. You go and look from the station, what do you get there? Somebody will give Mulaga Bhaji. Mulaga Bhaji means mirchi. The chili bhaji. Somebody will be selling hot bhajis. Or you go and read a book. Or somebody. So you go there, you buy those things. Somebody will be selling a doll, a mat, or a shawl. You acquire that. You enjoy so you acquire that. So the shawl is good to enjoy. You have the bhaji which is made of oil, something 2 days before. You eat that because you like it. You come and sit in the train, gadabada, gadabada. So all the stomach starts rumbling. So the pleasure that you got initially, what happened? the pleasure became pain. At the time of eating the bhaji, you don't think about it, right? At the time of thinking, you're salivating pretty much. I got this, and people always know that this particular place has got this special things. If you go to Jolarpete, right? People used to get down at Jolarpete to eat food there. Sambar rice is very good there. And the train will stop only for 10 minutes. So they will keep everything ready. So, on Salem, if you go, so the food will be ready, the everything will be ready because the passengers are rushing they will just rush there. So the moment the train stops, you jump out of the train and first come, first served. So whoever gets there, they will start serving like an express train. There will be 5 people coming. One rice will come, some will come, sambar will come, and all eat fast because the train will leave. And if you leave the train, if you eat the food, then you'll miss the destination. So what do? You eat, enjoy. Okay. So every stop you get down and you check back, okay, whether the train is going there or not. So you again get in the same train and again travel. Next destination you get down again. You know for sure that is not a destination you are going, correct? You want to go to New Delhi, but in between you got so many other stops you are getting down, correct? So the text talks about 2 things called sadhyam and sadhanam. Sadhyam and sadhanam. Sadhyam means that which has to be attained. Sadhyam. And sadhanam, when you say, the means to attain that destination. Sadhanam means the means to attain the destination. So what is yatra? Yatra is nothing but understanding what sadhyam is, understanding what has to be achieved by using the yukti called sadhanam. By using the yukti called sadhanam. Yukti means it's a method. Yukti called sadhanam. So you should know the means. You must know. Example, if you want to go to New Delhi, you have to take the train to New Delhi only, correct? You cannot sit in the Kanyakumari Express train and say that it will go to New Delhi. So it will only go to Kanyakumari. It will go somewhere else. And accidentally, if you also get in also, you'll have to get down. Or you have to travel back. Correct? Or you have to change train. Get on to another train to go to the destination. So, sadhyam. So the text, the first, I'm just giving you a synopsis so that you understand when I'm talking about it. So the author here, the first verse, talks about the sadhyam, which is that one has to achieve. And the sadhanam means the means or the method by which one has to achieve the sadhyam. So, just as in the example of the train also, even though you are getting down and enjoying the food, then you're suffering all the upset stomach, and you curse, and still you again feel tempted. Next station, okay, you're okay now, and then again you get down and say, then ice cream I'll have because this is something not very bad. So you go and have ice cream there. Luckily, nothing happens to you. You keep traveling, but you also know that I am actually not stopping here. My destination is not this. Is it correct? You know before that the destination is New Delhi, correct? You know before itself, you book the ticket itself when you say that I want to go to New Delhi and you book a ticket like this. So for everything else which is to be achieved in practical life, you know the destination. If you ask a student, right, what will he say? What is the destination? Or what is the sadhyam will say? I want to get pass mark. For a student who is actually not brilliant, he'll say, see, somehow I have to pass. If you ask another person who is actually not slightly brilliant, he'll say, I want to get first class, 60%. Then somebody will say 70% or 80% or 90%. So the degree of achievement varies with different people, correct? Not one person has got the same destination. Everybody has got different levels of sadhyam to be achieved. See, ultimately sadhyam is only one, correct? But everybody has got different levels of achievement. Somebody is very happy. Somehow I get there. Somebody will say, I would like to get through this way or that way. I will make a longer trip. I'll get on every station. I will look around. I'll take the next train. Then I will stay one more station at some other place. So also possible. Because that is how we understand sadhya. Correct? So, the purpose of this verse is that destination or that sadhyam by which your yatra is complete, your destination is complete, and beyond that you do not want to travel. So if you reach Delhi, you have completed your destination, correct? Now you do not want to travel beyond that. So where do you go? You go home, correct? So till such time what you are in the train, you are traveling all the time. But when you go to the destination, which is your hometown, or you get down from the train, you go home and then you are settled. After that, you don't want to travel. Is it correct? But till such time, till you travel, till you reach home or your destination, where ultimately where you want to be there, you will keep traveling. Hope you're getting right. You keep traveling. So the human being also is a traveler. And we are all travelers. And what is the travel? It's called yatra. And the sadhyam is the one which is we defined before as called Chaturvida Purusharthaha. Chaturvida Purusharthaha. Purushartha Nishchayaha. Hope you remember. So sadhyam is what? Purushartha Nishchayaha. So for a person who is a jiva, this sadhyam can be different for different people. Somebody will say that my sadhyam is artha. And within artha also different levels of artha also. Different gradation of artha also. Someone wants more security, someone wants less security because he's working towards security. So you keep working, so you're at the lowest level security, then you go to medium level security, then you go to highest level security, then you go to very high level security. So there are people, jivas also traveling in that particular train. Okay. And destination is what? Security, artha. Then there are people traveling or having sadhyam as kama, desire. So even there also there are a lot of desires, small desires, big desires. So there are some jivas traveling in that direction. There are some people traveling in artha direction. So there's a bus which is going for artha, and that train is going there only. So what do? You get on the train and you meet all the people there. You first talk to them. So you're very happy that you're sitting on the lower berth, and suddenly a lot of people come and next to you. Then what do you do first? Oh, where are you going? Said, I'm going to New Delhi. Oh, okay, you're going to New Delhi. So you're happy that somebody is going to New Delhi with you, right? So then other person says, no, I'm going to this place. Then you ask, why do you are going to do that place? Then he says, this is my destination, this is what I want to do. So you accept the fact. So there are different people in the same train, compartment, the same berth, who are traveling for different destinations. Same way here also. the sadhyam or the one to be attained is varied depending upon the person's intellect and the maturity of the person. So one person may follow artha, one person may follow kama, other person may follow dharma, but there are not many who will follow moksha. Because for attaining moksha, you should know what is moksha is. If you do not know what the destination is, how will you arrive at destination? That's why the author says, first of all, you should define where you are going. You have to write on a piece of paper that this is my destination. This is where I am going to stop. Now, when you are going to the destination, you will go through several methods. You will go through several ups and downs. Correct? So, there will be a phase where you will have all these difficulties, good experiences, knowledge will come, you will forget things. Again, so when you travel from a place to New Delhi, it takes 12 hours or 24 hours. Let's say 24 hours it takes. So you're willing to spend 24 hours sitting there waiting for the destination to come. Is it correct? You know. And you don't have a choice. Is it correct? Have you got a choice that you can do anything about it? Because that train will take you 24 hours to get there, and you're reconciled to the fact that once I board the train, I will have to wait 24 hours to get to the place. And you are willing to do all the sacrifices you require. The train gets late, gets derailed, engine problem, that problem. You are willing to wait there. Correct? And some vada pav bhaji comes, some vada pav comes, some somebody comes, drinks fellow comes, you enjoy, eat, and spend time there. But when coming to studying Shastra, when coming to life Dharma, you do not have time. Everything wants like that. How long will it take? How long will it study? Because this can take a lot of time. So what it says here is that the destination has to be understood very clearly, and you just have to keep working for it. There is nothing like a fixed time. But time itself is, so what it says here, you have to put the effort. And the effort should be in the right effort. Right? So, another thing says here also is, everyone likes happiness. Correct? Everyone likes happiness. There's not a single person in this universe who will say, I don't like happiness. Because at the end of the day, what are you working for? We are all working for, striving for, to get happiness. And the happiness is given by an object. Is correct? Happiness is given by the object. Do you love the object, or do you love the happiness coming from the object? The question is, do you love the object, or do you love the happiness coming from the object? Where are you connected? You are connected with the happiness from the object, not the object itself. Let's give an example. Go in the example. So I hope Srikanth doesn't get scared again. Let us say that you are married, you got a son. And you say that I love my son. I love my wife. I love my girlfriend. Now, do you love the girlfriend, your son, or do you love the happiness which you are getting through that object called the girlfriend? Which is Satyam? Is girlfriend Satyam or the happiness Satyam? What is the answer? The happiness which the object gives is Satyam, correct? The object which is there is not Satyam. Supposing you say that you have exhausted all the happiness. Say you have been in a relationship for say 5 years, the girlfriend. You have seen everything. Now you come to a situation when that you are not giving any enjoyment. Would you continue to have the object? Or would you continue to tolerate the object? Or will you drop the object? Will you drop happiness or will you drop object? You will drop the object, correct? Because you never want to drop the happiness. So what do? You go to another person. You find somebody else. Another example I'll give you. You've got a friend who is 20 years, you are like, Langotiyar. Langotiyar means like, the people who have been there right from your kindergarten. So they have been there for 20 years and you know them for many, many years. And it is such a friendship that somebody is eating orange, the other person will actually spit out the seeds. So they are like that. So he'll say, we are so bound like this that even if you eat orange fruit, he will spit out the seeds because oranges and the seeds are together. So the example I'm giving you. So they are so like this. So the anandam is there, the happiness is there, togetherness. Now, there's some rift happening between something. So after 20 years, you've seen everything. There's something happening. You're not enjoying this anymore, or you feel that time has come. I'm not the same person. So what do? Do you strive to make that work, or you try to rekindle that whole thing, or you think that yes, I think it has got its lifestyle. It's over, and you happily part away, saying that this person now is not actually going to be giving me more happiness, or I'm not really, comfortable, or it's okay. I mean, we had a good time, everything was okay, now I'm gone. Now you never hold on to an object of knowledge. You never hold on to anything for the purpose of just holding on to. You are holding on to only your happiness. Is that correct? That is what you want. Why do you want to hold on to something which is not going to give you happiness? So understanding that the object is not the one holding you, understanding that the happiness you derive from that object is the one which is holding you. Hope you're getting right. So very two things. Sometimes we do not know because it is so tightly tied together that we do not know what is giving happiness. We think that my son is giving happiness. If I'm with my son, I'll be very happy. So what if the sun is not there? You'll be unhappy. So the object itself is giving you that happiness and you're connected to this, correct? But if the object is not there, you become unhappy. So the author says here, understand this very clearly, that the object itself is not, you will not hold on to the object of knowledge, but the real thing is the happiness, which is the one which is you're seeking for in an object. And as long as the object gives you happiness, you will continue to be connected to the object. Even if it is an old car, let us say you have a very old car, say 20-year-old car, you've got a Camry. Sometimes in school we had this. We had a Bata shoe. I don't know if you know Bata shoes. So my father used to buy these shoes because it won't get torn, number one. Second thing is he doesn't have to buy a shoe for next 5 years. And either I have a choice of wearing the shoe happily or unhappily. Correct. So sometimes what I should do is that this shoe is not going to get torn. So what you don't get any more enjoyment. So you just leave the shoe one day and disappear. You don't wear it anymore. So what it means that see the happiness which you're getting from the shoe is no longer getting it. So what you're happy to get rid of it. So here also he's saying that the sadhyam or the achievement is not clear. What is it that you are really happy? What does it make you happiness? It's not clear to you. Because you think the objects are going to give you happiness, you are chasing the object of knowledge. Or you are connected to the object of knowledge. Objects, relations, affections, feelings, emotions are the one we are after. And these are the things which you think are going to give you happiness, but these things keep changing all the time. And see, emotions will change, correct? Today you are connected emotionally, today you are connected. Tomorrow you will not be connected emotionally. You love the person today, after 25 years of, sometimes you get bored. Sometimes you will just say, I think, you reconcile to the fact sometimes. Is it right or wrong? Sometimes, after so many years of getting married to somebody, initially there's a lot of pleasure, thrill in this. You go long drive, you go for, honeymoon, you buy gifts, etc. You pleasure the person, all these things, everything you do. Later on, after 25, 30 years, yes, every year why do you want to buy this? So you also lose interest. Other person also loses interest. Then what do? You just pull on. It's called pulling on. So if you are getting happiness from the person, or if you feel that that person is contributing to happiness, you will stay together. If the person is not contributing to happiness anymore, and you feel that you have reached that level of maturity where you think it is not going to give you happiness, then you seek happiness something else. I'm not saying that you must leave your wife or anything. All I'm trying to tell you, understand this very clearly. As any object or any sun or anything, he's not going to give you full happiness, because it is only give you happiness as long as you seek happiness in that. The moment it stops giving you happiness, you will automatically drop it. Likewise, other person also. See, the person who's holding on to you thinks that you are this, his godfather, or the person who's actually, oh, he's my dad, he will give everything, because he's expecting their happiness from you. The moment he feels that, he or she feels that, oh, this person is actually not useful anymore, he will start not bother you. This is a hard fact of life. That is what is talked about here in Jiva Yatra. So in Jiva Yatra, the author points out that how this destination is not understood by the people. And he's saying that the people are making efforts, good people. They're all very good people. Everybody is making effort, but the effort is in the wrong place. The effort is actually not in the right direction. Good effort is there, but the effort is not in the right direction. So because the effort is not there, the destination is not there, it's not possible. Right? So you have to make sure that the effort is there, the destination is known to you, number one. Effort is there, and then the right approach is required, then only you can reach the destination. It is like, when you want to board a train to New Delhi, you have to first know that there's a station called, you want to go to New Delhi, number one, correct? You need to know first. Second thing is, you should know where to go and buy a ticket. Through the agent or through black market or whichever, or you go to the counter, you know the ticket. Then you must know also which train to board also, correct? What time to board, which train to board, what class you should travel, how long you should travel, and when you should get down. What are the intermediate steps are there where you can achieve and where you can get down and still you can get back on track. Suppose you get down at some station in between and you don't know how to get back, you'll be lost. So what it tells you here, you have the end goal as picture. Even if you get down also, you should know that my end goal is there. But if you do not know the end destination, and if you are lost, if you get down somewhere and you ask somebody, where this goes, he says, this goes somewhere here. He says, then the person asks, where do you want to go? I don't know where I want to go. So it is like, a story happened like that. One person was traveling on a bus. See, this yatra means, I'm just giving an example. Okay, we'll come to the topic actually. One person traveling in a bus and he gets down. He goes and meets one shopkeeper there. And he says, where does this bus go? Then the shopkeeper, where do you want to go? He says, I don't know where I want to go, but I would like to know where this bus goes. Then he said, if you don't know where you are going to go, any bus doesn't make a difference to you. You can catch any bus and go anywhere what you want. Correct. That's the shopkeeper advice to you. So what Vedanta says to you, that do you know where you want to go? He says, yes, you want to go destination? Okay, then you go to the teacher. Then the teacher will take you to the right destination. But if you say, I don't know where I want to go, but I want to go. Then what does Shastram says? Okay, you go. You go where you feel that you want to go. And finally, when you get lost, you come back to me, then I will tell you that you're lost. Then may I help you? The Shastram asks, may I help you? Then he says, please help me. Then that's the time when you surrender to the Shastram, to the Guru, when the teacher takes control of your life and then it takes you there. Till such time you say, no, I don't want any teacher. I can be myself. I can explore myself. I can read this book. I can go to YouTube. I can read that. I can self-learn everything. You get lost. You don't know where to start and where to end. You started somewhere, you ended up somewhere else. Because there's no structure. There's no path. Correct? So you should know the path. You must also know where the stops are there. Correct? So these stops are called, the Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. They are the different checkpoints for you to see, okay, I've done Artha, I've done Kama, I've seen Moksha, Dharma. My destination is Moksha. But I'm using all these things as stop checkpoints for me to validate where I want to go so that I don't lose the destination, finally. So that is what is said in the first verse. This is the introductory first verse. Okay. I'll just read the first verse. Then we will look at the meaning from the next class. Hope you understood so far what I was talking about. Some of the facts are different compared to Bhajagovindam because I didn't tell you those things in the other class. But this particular thing talks about a different aspect. This is one of the small text called Prakarana Grantaha. So Prakarana Grantha means there is an elucidation of the text or the Vishaya in elaborate detail. So one topic or one message is conveyed. So a message is what is the message here is Jiva Yatra, or the journey of a Jiva. So whenever Yatra is there should be destination. So Jiva Yatra is equal to destination. Right? So Jiva Paramartha Aikya means the destination. And the yatra which you are doing, like, if you go to Rishikesh, or if you go to wherever you go, you are all going for yatra for achieving something. All the travel you go. Sometimes we'll say we go to Kshetradanam. I want to go to yatra. Tirtha yatra. Tirtha yatra. So what is Tirtha yatra? What people do? They go to different tirthas, temples. So they search for what? They search for this happiness which are in different temples. Different Bhagavan are there, different destinations are there, they take different trains are there. Then they come back and tell that I went to this temple, it was very good, all happiness was there. Correct? But can you do another yatra? You cannot, because you have missed the opportunity of understanding what the yatra was at that time. That's why I say. Nityananda Sukham Padam Suvimalam. Nityananda Sukham Padam Suvimalam. Praptum Samiha Yutaha. Praptum Samiha Yutaha. Nityananda Sukham Padam Suvimalam. Praptum Samiha Yutaha. Sarve Janna Brita Sada Vyasaninas. Sarve Janna Brita Sada Vyasaninas. Tatstana Sammarghane. Sarve Janna Brita Sada Vyasaninas. Tatstana Sammarghane. Evam Satyapi Sadhya Sadhana Yugham. Evam Satyapi Sadhya Sadhana Yugam Sambyang na jananti te. Evam Satyapi Sadhya Sadhana Yugam Sambyang na jananti te. Na prapta adunapi saukya padavim. Na prapta adunapi saukya padavim. Swabhishta rupam yataha. Swabhishta rupam yataha. Nityananda Sukham Padam Suvimalam. Praptum Samiha Yutaha. सर्वे जन्मभृतः सदा व्यसनेन तत्स्थान सम्मार्गणे एवं सत्यपि साध्य साधन युगं सम्यं न जानन्ति ते न प्राप्ता अधुनापि सौख्य पदवीं स्वाभिष्टरूपां यतः. Is it clear? So if you see the mantra there, I'll give you Nitya Ananda Sukham Padam. Every word has got a different meaning. So the next class I'm going to elucidate or unfold the meaning of this mantra in detail. So Nitya Ananda Sukham Padam Suvimalam Praptum Samiha Yutaha Sarve Janna Bhrita Sadha Vyasaninas Tatstana Sammargane Evam Satya Api Sadhana Sadhana Yugam Yukti. I told you, right? Sadhana Sadhana Yukti or the method. Samyagna Jananti Te. See, Samyag Na Jananti Te means what? People do not know. So, Na Prapta Aduna Api Saukya Padavim Swabhishta Rupam Yataha. Okay, so we will unfold this class, maybe next class. Have you got any questions from today's class? Anyone has got any doubts? I hope I made it clear the essence of the text, the first verse. So what we are going to do in the next class, we are going to go deep in the text, understand the meaning of each and every word. You can make notes. If you think I'm a bit fast, let me know, stop. Because the essence is importantly, you should be able to get the meaning. It's a very, very beautiful text. Unlike Bhaja Govindam, it tells different text, different meaning. Bhaja Govindam text that you to understand Govinda, do this, do this, do this, don't do this. Here what he says here that it's a nice way of saying that the people do not know what they are traveling, they do not know why they are traveling, they do not know when they will stop traveling, will they travel again, if at all they travel again, where will they go again, all this is talked about. So when I said travel, it means what? Going somewhere. You are going somewhere, we are all going to some place, somewhere. So what is that place? We do not know. How will the place be? We do not know. But when you ask to qualify something about going to India or somewhere else, we know that I'm going to India, I'm going to Chennai, I'm going to this street, I'm going to my address, and I'm going to stay with the people. Everything you know very clearly, correct? Whereas coming to Moksham, you do not know what Moksham is. How will Moksham be? Will it be something different? Will it be, how will it be, can I define moksha? People ask. Because you can define everything else. You can define the station, you can define the train, you can define the people traveling there, you can define your experience of traveling, you can define the street, the house, the people, everything you can define. You can name them also. But when coming to moksha, can you define? You cannot define moksha. Can you quantify happiness? You cannot quantify happiness also. Can you say that I will be happy like this? And then you do not know. So there are many things. The human beings working, and they are traveling without knowing why they are traveling. This is what is said there. So we'll go through this meaning next class. Okay. Radhaji, is it clear to you?
Yes, Ji. It was really good.
Okay. It's a very small text, but very powerful. See, all these Vedantic texts I love, children. It's very small, but the message is given so hard for real life, it starts to make you wonder, my God, what are they saying? We never thought about this before. Om Purnamadaঃ Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Namaste and Shubhratri to all of you. See, tomorrow we will start a new text. Mostly Narayana Suktam will start or Durga Suktam. One of them will start tomorrow. I'll send you the text before the class. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ji.